Good evening, race fans, and a very warm welcome to the Red Bull Ring here at Aero League Racing's Season 9 season finale. You're live with Webbo here on the mic to enjoy tonight's racing with you. We have a combined tier of tiers 1 and 3, as it was last week, if my information is correct. That should help sort out the minor placings of the respective championships. We do already have our champions in both tiers, which I'll talk you through shortly. But in order to sort out who finishes second, third and fourth onwards in the various tiers, we are of course going to settle that on the racetrack here tonight. Tight and twisty sections of the Red Bull Ring. It's a small, compact circuit. There's plenty of overtaking opportunities, lots of big stops, high speed, lots of fun to enjoy tonight. Hopefully we will have a season finale to shout about. And hopefully you're all getting yourselves ready for tonight's racing. Of course, we're going to have ourselves a qualifying session very shortly. Cars are on track at the moment, but I don't believe that qualifying has officially started. We shall wait for confirmation on that, of course. But for now, we're going to watch deck paint here on board in the Mercedes to see his first real attacking laps right now on the session. 10 minutes qualifying, 15-minute sprint from a standing start, and following that we will then of course go for reverse grid final race for the 40-minute endurance distance feature race for feature race level points as well. So let's go into those standings I was talking about, shall we? Because that's all important for us. Marco, for the distinct team, Marco was crowned champion with a remarkable run of many wins, 8 separate race wins, despite not being able to take part in this finale tonight. He has 8 wins out of a possible 14, 3 fastest laps, 2 poles and 251 points. However, BX Royal will be racing tonight against Caplero. With Viking Dog unable to make it in the last 3 rounds of the championship, we will now get BX Royal in second on 177 without a win to his name, but a string of 4 consecutive second places versus Caplero, who has featured on the podium twice in the last 2 weeks, has a standout win and in fact missed round 2 of the championship. So that's what it's all about tonight, really, is finding out, especially in tier 1, who it is that will take that second position, and whether indeed Caplero can take the 3rd position of his former teammate Viking Dog. That's the question. So it's 177 to BX Royal, Caplero 146 and 167 to Viking Dog. So it looks like qualifying is about to get underway for us, which is awesome. And then further down in the points, fighting over those minor positions, will be Raya Chan on 119, Zerbo on 112, followed by Mackey's 94, Owen Williams 84, Sick Boy 78, and our former double champ Iggy, who again I'm assuming will not be making it today, still in 10th place despite only making 3 rounds of the championship. In the in tier 3 we have DDK 201, who races with us tonight, who has already been crowned champion and apparently finished ahead of several, if not all, of the tier 1 drivers in the previous week. Unfortunately, I wasn't here to cover that week for you, but he has 12 fastest laps, 5 pole positions, and a string of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 separate race wins out of those 14 possible so far. He has 258 points, is definitely champion, and then you've got Andy Winters on 119, almost certainly going to be second place, with Geordie the First on 135, Jay O'Leary 87 on 131, Diablo Devil 118, Rostorm on 115, then Tab Shooter 102, Elian on 84, Arfaxad on 76, and Mighty Mini Smiley on 74. I'm not sure whether we'll get into the Constructors' Championship or not in time for the race, but you can see we've got a field of 13 drivers ready to tackle the racetrack. Deck paint is first on track, and unfortunately that's not going to be any way to start the race for him. So let's check out then with BX Royal, as it looks like Ross Thorm got turn 1 a little bit wrong as well. Just 10 minutes of qualifying, so there's not a lot of chance to change this round. And of course you've got your out laps and any further in laps to consider as well. Down into turn 3, the official turn 3 that is, goes BX Royal. I'm sure everybody knows the way around this circuit by now, but building the speed, downhill braking, going to brake a little bit earlier here for turn 4. Now you look as turn 4 becomes turn 5, and usually it's the car exiting on the outside that gets the better run through turn 5, and also the inside line into turn 6, which is very quickly followed by firstly sector 2 timing beam, and then of course the turn 7, almost identical profile, but it feeds into a very tricky turn 8, which you can very easily get yourself a track invalidation or steward warning. There is your penalty marker where you will go off throttle with any penalties given. Into turn 9, thick and fast, third gear, run it wide but not too wide, stay relatively on throttle. Into 10, slip to the outside slightly, goes BX Royal, and he's picked up a penalty for that infraction itself indeed. So let's have a look. Is DDK 201 on a hot lap here? He's in 7th at the moment, but he goes straight to first position. Potential pole time there, a 1:28.564. His fast time. Of course, the 1:23 doesn't register because it is his out lap, and he obviously started far enough down the pit lane to enable that one. Let's ride with Caplero then, our Italian from Tier 1, who is trying to hang on to the shrieking Mazda, who have been tremendously successful in Tier 1 this season. I'll get my chance to have a look at some new liveries for Tier 3, for me at least, in the race action, but for now let's stick with driver eye view, shall we, where it's all important, of course, every tiny little detail as he heads into turn 6 does to Caplero. Let's get that car gripping in. It's understeering out to the outside of the circuit. How's that lap? Well, it's a personal best 101 for the sector. It doesn't look like it's going to be threatening the DDK 201's line. That looked like he might have had to lift there, Caplero, trying to get a toe, getting a little bit greedy perhaps, and he's not happy with the lap at all, is he? DDK then coming through turn 9, he's coming into the pits, so anybody who's going to finish out a lap, here is Diablo, who will follow the cars behind to a time of just 0.08 of a second slower than he's been before through that run. Looks like most of our drivers going on into the pits, looks like soft tyres, which will be their race choice. Of course, whatever they qualify on will be their sprint race choice. So I would imagine that given the lack of long, fast corners here, that soft tyres will be just fine going through, as our Faxad managed to get himself a personal best but stays 7th. Doesn't improve beyond that 7th position. Who have we got coming in at the moment? Where are we? Here we go. It is, we are riding with JMS plate. I'll call him JMS for now. Forgive me if it's James or something like that. He goes to start his flyer at the moment. The rear's really wanting to light up. Looks like we've got ourselves an all-green car here. Yeah, it's a Porsche. Back on board then with him. Running through the order as the rest of the fastest drivers go for their second laps. Andy Winters is currently setting a personal best there. Let's see through into Sector 2 then. It's sunset conditions for our racing action tonight, so presumably we're going to get into night time. New records for CJ, for Jay O'Leary, Ross Thorne, Al-Faxad, all setting best times at the moment. The track improving, I imagine. So running through into turn 9, the Austrian flag gravel traps look like tarmac, don't they? Been very neatly combed and painted. Heading across the line then, that's JMS play up to P11. But let's have a look at the major placings as DDK starts his next lap. Caplero is in front of him on the racetrack, so we'll join Caplero and see his bid for pole here, but he's nearly 7/10 worse off right now. Winding through those Mazda gearbox gears as he rides over the marbles as well, heading on through into the second sector, and that is not good. It's not as fast as he needs to be, so let's see DDK. He's also slower. Deck paint is about to finish his lap. No, he's coming on into the pits, unfortunately for him. Looks like Diablo is next up then, in the ones most likely in the top 5 or 6. It's DDK, Caplero, deck paint, tap shooter now from Diablo, Andy Winters, Ross Thorne, and that's within a shout of improvement for Diablo, just into the hundredths of a second slower. Then Andy Winters, Al-Faxad and Ross Thorne, your top 8 at the moment. Deck paint, tap shooter, both in the pits. DDK at 1:28.564 at the moment. Diablo Devil has managed a 29.384 and is 0.8 of a second slower at this stage. Check out the time left. It is 1:20 on the clock for this qualifying session, as Diablo is getting closer and closer to a personal best here. 11 thousandths of a second slower at the moment. There's your timing, your penalty markers. Heading on through into turn 10. Nice entry line in turn 10 for Diablo. He goes to cross the line, and it is going to be personal best up to P4, and that was special from Diablo Devil. Very, very nice indeed. BX Royal has got himself into second position so far, and coming through then to finish the lap. This is his final hot lap for Caplero, looking leery on the outside of turn 10, across the line, and he stays third at the moment. Caplero on a 1:29.2 did not manage to improve as DDK goes faster. No, he sets an identical time to what he set before at 28.564. He's been given a purple for that, but it is identical to his previous lap. The final laps are beginning for everybody. Just watching as everyone comes on through to cross the line. It is DDK, BX Royal, Caplero, Diablo, deck paint and tap shooter at this stage. Let's see Diablo then. Is he going any quicker? Crosses the timer beam for sector 2, and he won't go faster this time. I don't think deck paint can do it, can he? He can. He can improve. He's on a personal best at the moment. His fastest at 29.323. Needs to find some time though. Check out where is Caplero. No, a penalty on his car. That'll be no better for him. So it looks like it's going to be third at best. This is deck paint then in the Mercedes, in the blue GoPro liveried Mercedes. Suffering massive understeer on the way in to 6 and has lost time. So looks like Andy Winters has managed to pip deck paint. Racing the Peugeot RCZ with Sega livery. New time for Joe Leary, but not troubling the top of the timing standings at the moment. There is Caplero with his penalty. Here comes the Italia, 458 Italia of BX Royal, set into second position, only 1/10 of a second separating the two front row sitters, but it's DDK who secures that pole position at the death of qualifying. DDK racing in the BMW M6 GT3, white with green transfers on the sides, and Tier 3 champion as well, who secures pole position. Very, very impressive from him. Will be underway for the race almost immediately. Check out the result then. DDK, BX Royal, Caplero, Diablo, Andy Winters, Deck Paint, Tap Shooter and Arfaxad, followed by Jay O'Leary, CJ, Ross, Major and JMS, who finishes out 2.1 seconds off the pace in the Porsche 2023 Le Mans colours there. Rexy livery, very tasty, very nice indeed. But it is all about DDK and BX Royal on that front row of the grid. How will the tyres handle on the BMW on the versus the Ferrari? We shall see as we get into it in our season finale now, sprint race around the Red Bull Ring of Austria. So let's get ourselves underway as soon as possible. The lights are on. It's time to get racing. We're being told that false starts will be penalised, but we know it all about that by now. It's race 15 of the championship. The red lights are on, and it's time to drop the clutch and go, go, go. And it looks like a good initial launch there from BX Royal away at the start. He's got the inside line running into turn 1, and DDK looking quite patient and quite happy to run with him at the moment, not fighting too hard with the Dragon number 98 on the side of the car and some comic book graphics on the back. It is BX Royal who gets the jump ahead of DDK. Now the aero efficiency not as strong, of course, on GT as in F1, but they go down into turn 3 and a nice sweep around the outside to reclaim that front position. That is P1 again for DDK. Only lost it for less than a sector really as they go through. It's DDK, BX Royal, Diablo, followed by Caplero. Jay O'Leary is shot up there onto P5 and Tap Shooter in 6th. Another speculative look down the inside there from Andy Winters in the Sega liveried Peugeot in the black and white livery, but it looks like, was that Andy Winters struggling? Someone is struggling down there. It's Jay O'Leary after a beautiful start in the black, red, fading to blue Genesis. It didn't quite work perfectly for him. And our Faxad in 11th, CJ in 12th, Rostorm at the tail of the field, who obviously had some drama at the start of the lap. But DDK is pushing hard. He's kicking off the grass, off the rear tyre, into the path of the Italia of BX Royal, but DDK will lead them away. BX Royal and Diablo Devil. It is Tier 3 first and third, Tier 1, Tier 2 in P2 and Tier 1 in P4 as well as they run through to start lap 2. As they were, it's Caplero in 4th, it's Tap Shooter, followed very, very closely by Andy Winters in the 2nd Peugeot RZZ. Then JMS and Deck Paint trying to run this one, but Deck Paint's got Major right on his inside. Major in the Toyota FT1 VGT. And we're having a change up near the front, not quite, no. Let's focus then on a move for 5th position. That's Andy Winters taking a unconventional line really through turn 3. Got himself over the apex and struggled there to be able to avoid contact. Deck Paint and Major continue to battle behind the Rexy liveried 911, and he's positioning himself on the outside, expecting a sweep around and a push to the outside, but the Toyota just found himself at the apex and in a better position. Deck Paint though has a good run, might sneak down the inside into turn 6, and side by side they will go. Where did Major end up? Major was going sideways as our Faxad is on his tail, so Deck Paint outfoxes Major XTC at this early stage of the race. JMS will pick up that half-second penalty, and we'll see how much that'll cost him, as Deck Paint will be hard on the throttle to the outside, sweeping around the outside of turn 9, and Deck Paint up another position, but he's going to struggle to hold on to it. That'll be an easy way to pick up a penalty, getting too greedy on the exit of turn 9 and turn 10, and there it is, a 2-second penalty. That is pain for deck paint early on. And moving back up the order, it's BX Royal from Diablo, from Caplero at this stage. What happened to DDK? Well, he slipped back. There must have been a complication there for DDK as we join Caplero versus Diablo for that second position. Caplero down the inside. He's a little bit hesitant, and he ought to be, because he's not fought wheel to wheel very much with Diablo Devil before. They're in different tiers, and Caplero wanting to move himself up into contention for third or second position in this championship. He's racing against his teammates' points haul at the moment, and also trying to secure the Mazda championship as well for them in tier 1. Caplero, he's taking his time to clear Diablo Devil, but Caplero's moved himself up there into that second position now, and he'll needs to be on the hunt for the Ferrari, which is jetting off and into the distance. DDK has resumed whatever issue he had, whether it was contact or a mistake, but it was not expected at this point, at least by me. Wasn't expecting there to be an issue there. DDK looked like he had it in hand. His teammate Tap Shooter is in 6th at the moment, and Andy Winters just counter steering his way out of turn 10 and trying to move up the order and get on the back of DDK, who himself is now catching Diablo Devil hand over fist. That was a fast lap from DDK, beating a lot of drivers' qualifying times in this lap 4. It is only a 15-minute sprint race, of course, so time is ticking on. 1:29.2 for Caplero, 1:28.5 for BX Royal. That was near his qualifying time, was it not? So a very, very nice time for him in that previous lap, trying to break the spirit of Caplero in the Mazda behind him. But BX Royal might be chewing up too much of those soft tyres at this early stage of the race. Maybe the race will come to Caplero later on if he's patient on the tyres and can operate in clear air here. But with Diablo Devil behind, keeping an eye on his mirrors now for DDK, who is hot on his heels. DDK, let's ride with him as we ride the bumps of turn 8. Just trying to find out where we are stronger on board than the car in front. That was a great exit from turn 10. Surely we'll be in contention. We're certainly close enough for a dive bomb, for a good move going on into turn 1, but he shies away from it, looks to consolidate his gains, make another 10th or 2 coming on out of turn 1, and now the better opportunity perhaps will be through and into turn 3 as they go down the hill through the kink of 2 to the left kink of 2 before a defensive shape from the Sega liveried Peugeot. DDK was equal to it and sold him the dummy, said I'm not coming, and then he did go for it. So back up into 3rd position for your pole sitter DDK, and we suddenly stick an orange filter on as we look back at the racetrack and see the sunset in the order. Whoa, that was very, very late and very scrappy from Diablo Devil, who finds himself rubbing sidewalls and wings with DDK, who holds on. Diablo Devil losing 2 additional places, then down through goes Andy Winters and Tap Shooter. Diablo Devil down into 6th position with that very, very scrappy attempt at a pass on DDK, who holds firm and will now look to move forward. Caplero building the speed in the Mazda and trying to close that gap. He's got it down to under a second from 1.7 seconds, so obviously BX Royal, bit of a scrappy couple of laps, 1:28.9 as his best was 1:28.5. So that was much quicker from Caplero, who's found some speed now in the wake of BX Royal's Ferrari. We could have a battle on our hands for the lead coming up. Oh, but that's a penalty for Caplero. Must have been the exit of turn 1. Will we see a move for P7, our Fagside versus Major? Not quite. How about behind them? Oh, and that's the Peugeot, excuse me, the Porsche in the Rexy livery, getting a little bit wrong. And what I don't know quite how deck painters CJ are ending up in 11th and 12th. Rostorm has a very nice looking McLaren that is down at the back of the order at this stage. Now the battle at the front is down to under half a second. It will be a lot more than that after turn 8, because there will be a penalty to pay for Caplero. It will look like he's stuck the brakes on. He hasn't. He's just gone off throttle for that 1 entire second. He might need to change down a gear or two and then pick it back up again and rebuild. And that gap has gone out to 1.6 seconds, but he knows he's got some speed. He knows he can close in on the Ferrari. BX Royal, though, would have breathed a sigh of relief as Caplero picked up that penalty. Your order then on lap 7 with under a minute to go. BX Royal, Caplero, DDK, Andy Winters, Tap Shooter, and Diablo Devil. This will be, I think, the final lap of the race. Having said all of that, as the Mazda of Caplero will have to consolidate and settle for these. A look of flame comes out of the the front wheel exhausts there on the Mazda, but it looks like he's going to have to settle for second position and a back row start for the reverse grid feature race. BX Royal, though, looks to have this one in hand. Just about half a lap to go for BX Royal as Caplero gets scrappy. He doesn't want to give up that second position and the points that he'll earn for it to DDK, who is going to be a major threat from behind. That has doubled the gap to the front and halved the gap behind to DDK and BX Royal in reverse order. Up the road then, 3.1 seconds is BX Royal heading into the final 2 corners. Will we see a possibility of a change for that second position? That gap is going out now to 0.4 of a second. BX Royal, though, will come through. And he will start lap 8. Forgive me, I've calculated wrong. He will start lap 8. We will go to 15 minutes, of course we will, but a 1.5 second penalty on the car of DDK, that is a big problem for him, and a nice thing for Caplero to see in his mirrors. There is time to recover this for Caplero and get on the hunt for the win. We have 4 minutes remaining. We've got some tight battles going on. Apart from this one you see on screen right now, DDK would love to get himself ahead of Caplero before the penalty takes effect. They do seem very, very even, though, at this stage of proceedings. Here comes the problem for the penalty to pay for DDK as they come on through. So it looks like we've got a lead 3, a middle 3 and a back 3 sets of rivals together, and there goes the opening of the gap to DDK. Behind them, Andy Winters, Diablo and Tap Shooter fight for 4th, 5th and 6th positions respectively. And then we have a nice battle developing between Major, Arfaxad and Jay O'Leary for 7th, 8th and 9th. Behind them we have CJ in the Mercedes. Little gap to JMS in the Porsche, followed by Ross in the McLaren, and Deck Paint down into 13th position, who must have been off track to fall back to plumb last. Back at the front though, it's 4.2 seconds. We've got BX Royal's gap out to 2nd place, Caplero. It really has opened up. We'll keep an eye on that battle, but let's try and find some close racing, shall we? Here is the Sega liveried RCZ of Diablo Devil. Huge air cooling on the roof, characteristic of the Peugeot. Will we see a move potentially for 8th position as the Alfa Romeo 4C of Arfaxad finds himself behind Major and in front of Jay O'Leary. These are the closest battles on the grid at the moment, with BX Royal still leading. Just over a minute and a half remains in this race as the leaders cross the line, so they will have to go very slowly to make it this final lap. I imagine, though, it will be 2 final laps. Some of these drivers, of course, will now cross the line and finish first at the back of the grid, as curious as the Gran Turismo grid counting goes. Here's Ross Dawn with JMS right behind him as they come through to start their final lap. And there may be a move coming for P11 from JMS. No change at the front still. Here is BX Royal. His gap still 4.4 seconds, and he four-wheel drifts into turn 6. The soft tyres just giving up a little bit, or he's getting a little bit greedy with his entry speed. Fastest lap at the moment, Caplero, a 1:28.197, just 0.3 of a second slower than DDK's pole. Here is Caplero in that second position. DDK, bulk of the fight here seems to have gone out of DDK, as he seems to have used a lot of his tyres. Keep an eye on that fuel usage, though, as well in this sprint race. They'll be going full beans, but to be under half a tank at this stage may be problematic for our races. We're about to tick over to the 15-minute mark, so it will be Andy Winters who will pick up the checkered flag for that 4th position, quickly followed by Diablo Devil, who fought for the podium earlier on. Tap Shooter and Major will come through for 6th and 7th position. There he goes, Al Faxad. 8th, followed by Jay O'Leary and CJ in 10th position. I think Ross Dawn will still finish 11th despite that penalty on CJ's car. He will. JMS and Deck Paint 12th and 13th respectively, and then we will wait for our winner to actually win the race, as he no problem with the soft tyres. Looks like they will be running a potential medium and soft combination for the race. If they start on mediums, they'll be hoping to get to this sort of 16-17 minute mark to go in the race, if they can, that is. So here is the confirmed final lap then for BX Royal. Looks like Caplero and DDK are fixed in their positions at this stage. Oh, big rear wheel slide there from our race winner, but coming up to close the race out and win in Austria for the sprint race is BX Royal for the penultimate race of the championship. Here goes Caplero into P2, and DDK will handbrake turn his way into P3, but BX Royal, your winner overall. And we'll take you through the final standings, and then I'll talk to you a little bit about manufacturer battles that are going on. BX Royal gaining 1 position, getting a clean race and a very nice sprint race. Haul of points for BX Royal. Let's go have a look at our result. It is BX Royal from Caplero and DDK, as we saw. Fastest lap to Caplero, then goes Andy Winters and Diablo Devil, Tab Shooter, Major and Al Faxad 6th, 7th and 8th, followed by Jay O'Leary in 9th, CJ in 10th, and then Ross, JMS and Deck Paint closing out the final standings, final positions of the sprint race. So in terms of our constructors in Tier 1, Mazda have going before this race, the sprint race, Mazda had 313 to McLaren's 257, Peugeot on 196. We have Genesis on 164 in incorrect order. So Ferrari were then 4th on 188. Down in 6th, Renault on 133, Jaguar 122. We have Lamborghini in 85 and Mercedes on 70. That will change around a little bit as a result, but you can see that Mazda almost certainly have claimed that title. And in Tier 3, the manufacturers, BMW have 360 to Peugeot's 317. this is prior to the sprint race. We have the Genesis on 266, McLaren on 189, Chevrolet 146, Alfa Romeo 141, Porsche on 73, Toyota 41, and Ferrari with a single solitary point to offer the championship. In terms of reaction to the race, what are we saying? Ross Thorne saying that the driver who finished P11, I think that was, I think he means CJ in 10th, picks up a podium for Tier 1 because we have so few Tier 1 drivers, which is good to see. And Tier 3, DDK just calling out or asking Diablo Devil what went down, and he said he outbraked himself. And Andy Winter saying he got taken out as well. Yeah, lots of drama at that during that sprint race. As is customary, I will go quiet for a minute then until the race begins for the next and final feature race of season 9. But don't go anywhere, and we'll be back with commentary very soon. Okay, it's time to go racing here at the Red Bull Ring. Here we have then the start of the race coming. Of course, we have a reverse grid situation, so deck paint, it will be on the pole, as it were, for the rolling start. JMS, Ross Thorne, CJ and O'Leary. And then at the back, of course, will be BX Royal and Caplero. It's time to go racing, and it's green flag. Let's go up the hill towards turn 1, as we'll go line astern through the start of this one. There'll be no major moves. There's a potential one going on here between the two Peugeots, who make a tiny bit of contact at turn 1. Diablo Devil will not be thanking his teammate for that one. And then back in the order, we've got already getting in the mix the 3 podium sitters from the sprint race, looking to try and get an early impetus. BX Royal going down the inside of both of them. Is he a double overtake through turn 3 for BX Royal? Fantastic move from him. Gets the 2 podium sitters, and now the onus will be upon him to make the next move and lead them going through the order. Oh, someone going a little bit crazy there. That was Diablo Devil getting a bit of his own treatment, and shooting out from the back of the order goes Major, who made that first mistake and got himself turned 90 degrees around the inside. Diablo Devil getting a little bit of karma going on there for his behavior in the first race, and he's looking to sneak one up the inside of the McLaren of Ross Thorne, who is trying to hang on here. Made a move, did the McLaren coming through, and there he goes. So Alfaxad in the Alfa Romeo with the Germany rear wing end plates, German flag rear wing end plates, as he struggles to hang on, runs around the outside as BX Royal is now going for that 8th position against the Peugeot of Andy Winters. In fact, he's held back and he's gone for the cutback. He already gets the Alfa Romeo, finds himself with massive overspeed through the apex of turn 1, and already with the tail ahead as they head down, and on the inside as they head down towards the turn 3 braking zone. Will he get himself ahead or not? He's right there with him. Climbs over the inside curb, neat and tidy, and through into P7. BX Royal on an absolute hurry up here tonight, and he's up into 7th already, and it's only about halfway through lap 2. But coming back at him is the Peugeot of Andy Winters, who takes 3 attempts to unsettle the car. 3 lots of contact for BX Royal, and he's going to know that he's in a scrap here tonight. Andy Winters doesn't want to give up anything at all, as they'll go side by side, door handle banging on the way between turn 6 and 7. BX Royal giving as good as he got there in the previous couple of corners. He's in 7th position. Deck paint's up at the top with CJ trying to hold up the tier 1 reputation, such as it is at the moment. It was in tatters through the previous corner as BX Royal makes contact, has to dip out of the throttle, might find himself vulnerable. He touched the back of the McLaren of Ross Thorne, and Ross went slightly sideways again. Andy Winters with a big lunge into turn 1. BX Royal is going to be having nightmares about that Peugeot tonight, come what may, and Caplero is right on BX Royal's tail once again, and has got the run on him here. Caplero with the nose ahead, going it deep into turn 3, glowing front disc brakes on both of the rivals. Ross Thorne getting a little bit out of shape as Caplero tries to thread the needle between the two of them. BX Royal gets ahead, Caplero gets ahead of Ross Thorne as well, and now it's back to try and challenge Andy Winters. What will Andy Winters try and do here? Tries to go around the outside through turn 4, and just about the BX Royal gets through, but he knows that Peugeot is going to be hot on his heels. He's going to have to complete a perfect couple of corners coming up to challenge him. Caplero, the next one, with the extreme challenge of passing the Peugeot at the moment. Deck Paint and CJ still lead this race. Deck Paint out and away, going very well indeed. Soft tyres on BX Royal. That could be really important later on We'll run through the tyre situation as they go through turn 9 side by side. Andy Winters and Caplero. Winters on the mediums, so is Caplero. So Caplero keeping his sights firmly set on BX Royal, who is on the more aggressive first stint strategy here. Caplero trying to block the inside, allows Rostorm to go up ahead of Andy Winters this time. But Andy Winters with a switchback around the outside. Rostorm hung out to dry on the curbs. And where is DDK? Well, he is in 8th at the moment on medium tyres. The majority of the field are running medium tyres here. Just running through the order, but Deck Paint is using these softs to great effect at the moment out there at the front. CJ slightly more sensible on the tyres, but is in 2nd position. BX Royal is fighting for 3rd now against Jay O'Leary, and down the inside, Jay O'Leary not wanting to put up a huge fight, I think, as BX Royal kicks out the tail in front of the Genesis and just hangs on. Number 87 Genesis just managing to avoid contact with the drifting Ferrari. How did BX Royal get past those two cars? Well, the soft tyres will have something to do with it. He was the fastest in the sprint race as well, of course. Caplero has kept on to that 6th position ahead of Andy Winters and of DDK now. So later on we will see whether those soft tyres of Deck Paint and BX Royal can hang on through this stint into a one-stopper. But the drivers would prefer to use the soft tyres when the car is at its lightest, I'm sure. P6 for Caplero at the moment, running a 28.8 the last lap through. Diablo Devil hot on the heels of Jay O'Leary now. Is he close enough to have a go? He's going to try down into turn 3. A little bit of a speculative move that time. Wasn't going to come through for him. And looks like Jay O'Leary has been slow out of turn 3. And Diablo Devil has got the nose ahead. Jay O'Leary, though, will come back down to the inside. Diablo will quite like the outside run here. Tries to switch back, surprisingly, because the better grip is on the outside of turn 4, leading through 5 and on the inside into 6. But Jay O'Leary got through with a minimum of contact. And this just brings Caplero more motivation to be able to attack shortly. That gap has closed significantly as BX Royal is on the hunt for CJ's 2nd position now. 3rd and 2nd. Deck Paint still with a good, decent lead of 7 seconds over CJ and BX Royal. This early stage of the race. BX Royal will stay on these tyres for 16, 17, maybe even 18 minutes before pitting. Here comes a fight then. It's Jay O'Leary versus Diablo Devil again. Diablo down the inside. He uses every inch of the track as Caplero works hard to avoid contact, trying to follow Diablo through past Jay O'Leary, and I think that's going to work. He's got the inside line going into 3. That's quite handy. Oh, very late on the brakes is Caplero versus Diablo Devil. Caplero almost had to change his line there. But he's on through past Jay O'Leary now. Diablo, Caplero, Jay O'Leary, followed by DDK and Andy Winters. Jay O'Leary hanging on tough around the outside as DDK will occupy that space and take the inside line. Didn't quite use enough of the middle of the road, did Jay O'Leary. And the outside goes DDK, and coming at him now is Andy Winters, and we know he's a tough customer. Sweeps across the nose and in, and Jay O'Leary losing 3 positions there in the space of a lap. It's Deck Paint from BX Royal now, who's got himself into 2nd position past CJ. Need to avoid running so wide through the corners there. And then Diablo in 4th from Caplero. Side by side up the hill from Caplero. Can he hold on? Running through. He can just about, but That was a rough exit. So coming and drawing alongside comes the Peugeot of Diablo once again. We'll try and close him out here, make sure that he can put at least 2 wheels on the surface, and they're going to try and go 3 into 1 corner. Wow, Caplero just holding on there as Diablo was very, very late on the brakes, and it looked like for a moment DDK was coming into the mix. Here is Diablo then, down the inside, he's got the inside line. Caplero needs to squeeze him off to the middle, and he does so. Just holding on to the better grip line is Caplero at the moment, but it's not easy by any stretch. There is not a lot to choose between these Tier 3 and Tier 1 drivers who are available tonight at least. I dare say that the likes of Viking Dog and Marco might well have been a little bit further ahead. But the midfield of both divisions very, very close to one another. Of course, I believe that the tiers were split before the most recent BOP update on Gran Turismo, so it's a little bit of a lottery as to whether the qualifying cars worked or didn't work. Andy Winters moves to the inside to defend against DDK. He will take that outside line and try and keep the run going. Diablo has picked up a 1-second penalty running through those last couple of corners. DDK looks for the inside line into turn 3, up against Winters, Peugeot, and DDK moves on through with good grip at the apex. Just had to be patient on the throttle there and made it stick. So up to 6th place now for DDK, playing a patient game and taking the middle of the road just to discourage a revenge attack there from Andy Winters, who snaps the tail out going through 4 and into 5. Looks like Deck Paint's lead is being cut drastically. We have an all-British podium at the moment. Provisional podium, of course, but both Deck Paint and BX Royal are on the soft tyres. Everybody else, if memory serves correctly, are on the mediums at the start of the stint. Looking back through the order, the 2 Peugeots together now as Jay O'Leary and Ross Storm, and then further back then just a little gap to Al-Faxad, 2 seconds, and then comes the final 3, Tap Shooter, Major and JMS. That is Deck Paint's bright blue Mercedes, being followed less than 2 seconds behind him is BX Royal. Soft tyres on the 2 cars, the Ferrari using its rears that little bit more than the Mercedes at this stage, and CJ the lead medium runner at the moment, and will be hoping to stay out of trouble and keep those lap times ticking over in the low 1 minute 30s. Very consistent. One bad lap, maybe a lap 7 for him, but if he can keep that low 1 minute 30s, he'll be in a good place, I think. BX Royal has peaked at 1:28.390. That is the race fastest lap as well, and clearly has more pace than the 2 cars on the other 2 provisional podium positions. But down the order then, and Caplero is opening the gap to DDK, 1.5 seconds 4th to 5th, and then Andy Winters just reversing the fortunes of the Sega liveried Peugeots, picking up a 1-second penalty going through turn 9, I think, or turn 8. And that's what caused their last slowdown. So how nicely are Andy Winters and Diablo going to play here? Well, Diablo has a little look down into turn 1. Doesn't think too seriously about it, and they gets a tank slapper coming through there. Double counter steering through the corner. Tucks in behind his teammate's rear wing, looks down the inside, opens the breakout. Andy Winters tries to cut the nose off, and that is not good team play at all, as the 2 of them make contact and slow each other down in their hunt for that 5th position of DDK at the moment. So words will be exchanged in the debrief, I feel sure. Diablo may feel that he was going to pass Andy Winters regardless. Andy Winters might feel like he ought to have waited for the penalty to come through. But it is what it is at the moment, as Rostom's trying to find some real estate on the track. But Jay O'Leary is holding on. Oof, around the outside goes Rostom. That's a tasty move if he can stay within track limits. And the steward's ire coming through turn 8. He can just about, it looked like he might have had 4 wheels off the track at that point, but thankfully. And there is the slow Andy Winters, who blocks the inside line, and Rostom decides it's now time to come into the pits. Interesting timing here. Is he going for a medium soft potentially? That is quite soon for a medium runner, and it is the first one, but Caplero's come in as well. Why are these medium runners pitting before the soft runners? Well, it can only mean that they are either going to try the hard tyres, or they are going to go for a double soft stint. Little bit of fuel for Caplero. How much will it be? We shall see. But he must have felt he was being held up there. Medium tyres have gone on again, so medium, and then presumably soft. I'd be surprised if the mediums will do 24 minutes on their own, but it's possible. But he still has to use that different compound. You've got to use 2 different compounds, soft, medium, hard, unless we have a wet race, and I don't think that's happening. BX Royal has taken the lead against Deck Paint, who has a further penalty to pay. So BX Royal in the lead of this race on the soft tyres. I'll be expecting him relatively soon for that first and possibly only pit stop within the next 2 laps, I expect, because he'll start to lose time on the soft tyres the longer he runs them into the red. But into the lead once again, and he led the sprint race. And there, look, you can see the rear left is very, very rough for BX Royal. Deck Paint also on the softs, but the Mercedes a lot kinder to its tyres, or the driver a lot kinder to its car. Purple flame coming out of the exhausts again in that great camera angle down into turn 3. Another car in the pits at the moment, so it's BX Royal, Deck Paint and DDK from Diablo, Andy Winters. Arfaxad right behind him. Will we see a move shortly here from Arfaxad? I think we may. 0.4 of a second at the moment between 6th place Arfaxad and 5th place Andy Winters. BX Royal stays out this time, doesn't decide to come into the pits on this lap. I would expect the next lap to be the one for him. Be able to run the car very rich in this first stint, and then know that he'll need to refuel to about 3/4 of a tank or thereabouts. Is this Alfaxad indicating that he's headed into the pits? He stays right, as does then Andy Winters. Both pit at the same time. He might want to consider that he ought to have bailed from his pit attempt at that point. Do whatever you do something different to the car that is slowing you down. Caplero has pitted off the mediums onto the softs and is in P11 with a full tank of fuel. So might be trying to fuel this to the end, but I can't see his tyres making it comfortable for him at least. Rostom in P12. He will pick up some places now going past the pit lane, as will Jay O'Leary. BX Royal surely will start to slow. Well, that lap was a 1:28.8. Previously he'd done a 1:28.5, 1:28.8 thereabouts, so hasn't slowed him too much. His peak on lap 9, a 1:28.343, is the race's fastest lap. Looking for signs of pit lane entry here, but he goes on by once again. He's buying himself as much time as possible for the next run. His deck paint flirting with track limits, and there 2.5 seconds is very, very harsh for him. Into the pits comes Steedy K off the medium tyre. Is the soft tyre window open with just over half distance to run? It's possible for the kinder of the cars tyre on the kinder cars on their tyres. There is Tap Shooter. Both BMWs coming in then. What will we see from JMS? He stays out. CJ also staying out with a penalty on the car. And Caplero then trying to make hay while he's got a nice clear track. Sun is shining, but on soft tyres with a full tank of fuel. Now, if he was going for a two-stopper, he ought to have fueled less. If he's going for a one-stopper, why did he pit so early? I'm very confused. He was being slowed, but by that level, I find it hard to finding that hard to believe. Al-Faxad in 11th, Tap Shooter in 12th, coming out of the pits. Will he stay ahead of Major? Not quite. Major yet has just pitted. Looks like a overcut pass for position there. Tap Shooter, but with cold tyres at the moment. They'll run side by side into turn 3. And he just about positions the car, but can't get the grip down on the exit. So they'll continue their battle entertainingly as they head down towards turn 4. And it's the Toyota ahead still, very nicely. BX Royal still stays out. He's going to use that entire tank of fuel and be in great shape for the end of the race. Medium tyres to the end. Of course, we've passed the halfway point now on our 40-minute race. It's down to just the fumes on the car as well left. Scaplero's got himself back up to P5. Just deck paint in front of him, and he's got better tyres at this stage. Deck paint doing a classic one-stop, soft to medium. Caplero, I'm scratching my head slightly on the strategy, but he gets ahead. Remember, deck paint was in first position for the first third of this race, so Caplero could be on for a good result here, certainly on the provisional podium at this stage. As Diablo yet to pit off his mediums, he's running deep into the second half of the race, as well CJ has pitted off his mediums and stays second, but he's 42 seconds away from BX Royal, who now finally decides to pit with 17.5 minutes to run. So must be a change to medium tyres for BX. CJ will try and take the lead of the race. Depends how the pit stop goes for BX Royal. Of course, he'll need to fit less fuel than the other cars at this stage, who pitted earlier. Let's see. Oh, it looks like BX Royal is on his way out of the pits. So while he's got a slower run through turn 1, BX Royal, as we go over the crest, we'll see he's miles ahead. Nearly 5 seconds in the lead of the race. CJ then in that second position. He's got a 5-second gap behind as well, and he's catching BX Royal slightly here on his first lap out of the pits. Caplero doing well in P3 if those soft tyres will make it to the end. Deck paint in 4th position, just under 12 seconds off the lead. I don't think he'll mind finishing that kind of gap away from the pace of BX Royal. But it is Caplero trying to get that second place in the championship away from BX Royal. and the 3rd place in the championship away from his teammate, Viking Dog, who's not with us tonight. There's a penalty for deck paint. That's not a good sign for him. So let's look at the fight for P6, as Andy Winters is on the heels of Ross Dawn at the moment. It's also important that the drivers are trying to qualify for the Champions race, which I believe is next week. So in the overall rankings, that will be decided. Down the inside into turn 1, then tries the Peugeot of Andy Winters. Lots of opposite lock going on, lots of counter steering through turn 1, but makes the move stick, and both cars behind have got penalties. So Andy Winters up to 6th, 25 seconds off the lead of the race at the moment. Soft tyres, he'll hope, at least to the end. Fueled sufficiently to the end as well. Just under 14.5 minutes remain in our race, as the sunset is taking a long time to finish. We don't think we're going to get to nighttime conditions by the end of our race. It's BX Royal, CJ, Caplero, DDK, Andy Winters, Ross Thorne on screen, followed by Jay O'Leary in the Genesis, Arfaxad in 9th, Major in 10th, then Tab Shooter, Diablo Devil down into 12th and fighting with JMS Play here into turn 4. All 13 runners remain. This is a combined Tier 1 and Tier 3 season finale after both championships have been tied up. For some drivers, the impetus to continue racing has faded a little. BX Royal, though, is bossing this on 4.1 seconds in the lead, on a perfect strategy to the end. Actually going to be able to run really aggressively here on those tyres. What of CJ? Well, he's in 2nd and staying ahead of Caplero, but Caplero is a little bit faster now. 29.2 versus 28.4 last lap, and a personal best on the previous one for Caplero. So he's trying to get that 2nd place, and that will help him in his hope to finish P3 in the championship. I don't think P2 is on unless BX Royal falls off the racetrack at some point. Deck Paint in P4, holding up the honours of Tier 1 at the moment, who are in the top 4 positions, as DDK. His sprint race pace has faded a little bit, not been able to quite live with the pace of the Tier 1 drivers in the feature here. His qualifying was very good, but he hasn't been able to come through the field quite at the same rate. He's on soft tyres as well. Similar strategy to our leader, to Caplero, excuse me. As Andy Winters in 6th position. And then we see Ross Thorne in the McLaren, trying to hold off the Genesis of Jay O'Leary for 7th overall. And what will be, I think, yes, a podium position. 7th overall would be a podium in class for Ross Thorne here tonight. Gaps opening up a little bit on the racetrack, but mistakes can happen at any point. So stick with us as we try and finish off all the standings for the end of the season. Keep your eyes peeled for socials announcements from @Aero League Racing and myself @WebberRed5 for post-race penalties, final standings on the championship and the respective tiers. Let's go back to Ross Thorne and Jay O'Leary then, because they are the closest cars on the track. Oh, are they though? Let's go up and just check on this battle then. Now DDK is trying to overtake Tier 1 driver Deck Paint, 0.6 of a second between the two for 4th place overall. Deck Paint will get that 1 second penalty and make life very easy for DDK, who moves up into P4 then. And the top 3 very equidistant at the moment. DDK will gap Deck Paint significantly here. They're on different tyres as well, just to double the pain for Deck Paint. So let's just resume our check on Rostorm in the McLaren, holding on to 7th place overall, 3rd place in class. A potential tier 3 podium here for Rostorm. If he can hold off Jay O'Leary on the same tyres, same fuel. Very even fight here between the McLaren and the Genesis, but Andy Winters up the road has got a small half-second penalty to pay. Rostorm shapes to the inside gradually. Very steady here for Ross as he gets a nice classic apex through turn 3. Heading then down the hill towards turn 4. Need to do the same thing again, and he sticks to the middle of the racetrack. Jay O'Leary round the outside. You can do it. You can make it quickly, and you can even get out in front of your rival, running around the outside of turn 4 and into 5. But Jay O'Leary not this time. We have a pit stop in amongst the podium runners. That's CJ in off the softs and running out of fuel. Just check on his fuel situation and tyre situation. Yeah, he didn't fuel a huge amount there. So with just over 9 minutes to run, CJ will have a 2-stop confirmed. Keep my eye on Caplero as well as Rostorm. Spins coming out of turn 10. Unfortunately for him, drops down a couple of positions. Make that 4 positions. Rostorm drops down and only just manages to overtake CJ. But CJ is on his way out of the pits now. Slowly down the pit lane exit. That comes out in 10th position. So the field pretty closely spread at the moment. Hasn't opened up a huge amount. Caplero on those soft tyres, he's treating them as gently as he possibly can to get them home. He's in 2nd now from BX Royal. That will really help him in his bid to claim that 3rd place in the championship. He wants to pressure BX Royal if he can, but equally doesn't want to miss out on that 3rd place in the championship relative to his teammate. Also to secure the championship for Mazda as well tonight in tier 1. But he would far prefer, I'm sure, to finish 3rd to his teammate, ahead of his teammate Dan, who hasn't taken part in the previous 2 or 3 rounds. BX Royal now under 4 seconds ahead of Caplero. DDK in 3rd place has managed to put nearly 7 seconds on deck paint since that overtake we watched, and deck paint has picked up another second, so it may be penalties are proving to be the undoing of deck paint's race at this stage. Who else will we be expecting a 2nd pit stop from? Well, Andy Winters isn't looking great with 7 minutes to go on those tyres. It's a long run on those softs he's going to have to run as they fade on the Peugeot. Particularly rear left is the most limited tyre on this track, of course. Jay O'Leary is in a similar position. Tyre wear. I think Major, Arfaxad, Tap Shooter are going to be okay to the end of the race. So the majority of the field started on mediums. CJ started on mediums, had a short stint on the softs and has gone for a 2nd set of softs into P11. Diablo, soft tyres in P12. Quite sure where Diablo's pace has gone in this race. He's 44, nearly 45 seconds off the lead. JMS is in that 13th and last position now. Half a tank of fuel remaining for the last 6.5 minutes to go. Soft tyres to the end, but a great livery on the car. Always brings a smile seeing that one. BX Royal holding on to his lead at the moment, but he's been cut by Caplero down to 3.2 seconds as he has the difference in tyre performance. But in terms of longevity, he will have the tyres at the end of this stint. Tyre advantage over Caplero. A nice battle towards the tail end of the grid, but Andy Winters holding on to 4th at the moment from deck paint. as well. In fact, Andy Winters has got past deck paint on that previous lap, so up to 4th position for him, 2nd in class, second only to champion DDK tonight. Further back, we've got a long run of cars from 7th, our Faxad through Major, Tap Shooter, Rostorm, and CJ. 7th to 11th, nice and tight, but CJ on the soft tyres has picked up a 1.5 second penalty, so he's going to drop off the back of that group quite quickly, unfortunately for him. Joe O'Leary is on his own somewhat, and I'm going to keep my eye on that gap at the front of the race, because that looks to be about 2.5 seconds now or thereabouts, so that has come down significantly. I don't know. It's looking good for Caplero and his tyre management, but will he have anything to battle at the end? There goes deck paint, another second of a penalty being awarded, going through the final 2 corners for him. And that will mean that this battle will fade away between himself and Andy Winters. Let's ride on board then Major's Toyota, shall we? See the gap behind in the rear view mirror, and we can see the gap in front, of course, through the windscreen. Very low wind speed here in the mountains. It is looking darker and darker on the track. Just under 4 minutes remain. Oh, big mistake from Major. He won't thank us for riding on with him there at the moment, and through goes Tap Shooter, going on past Major, and Major himself will now have Rostorm closing in from behind, and the headlights shining brightly on the track. I think my favourite livery tonight in Tier 3 who is taking part is going to be Rostorm's McLaren. Black with gold, matte black it looks like, with oh, it's not quite matte black, is it? It is gloss black with very, very highly chromed gold finish on the car. Looks gorgeous. And coming up against the Toyota right now for 9th place overall. He's going to try, doesn't quite have the overspeed, but he's going to go for it on the brakes into turn 1. Toyota sees him coming from miles away and just plays it patient and holds on. Does Major into that 9th place, holding on to 9th place at the moment. Where are those leaders? Well, they are closer together. 2.5 minutes to go, and Rostorm wiggles his way to the apex down the inside and completes the move, and that's a great place to make the pass. Let's see if he can hold on through the next corner, and then we must have a good look at the leaders. He's trying to hold on to the right hand side of the circuit, and he's done so. Oh no, a major outbraking maneuver, forgive the pun, turns 90 degrees in the gravel trap, and Rostorm unfortunately just held on too long, or was distracted enough to lose the position. Caplero, well, he was close, but it's gone out to 4 seconds again for Caplero, and surely that rear left tyre is going to be screaming at him very soon. We have 1 minute and 40 to go, so there will be 2 more laps for the leaders as Caplero is going faster and faster, gets a purple first sector this time out. Let's ride with him as he seems to be gunning for that fastest lap now. He currently holds it at 28.2. Tries to close out this race. Feels like he's got tyres to get him there. 2 laps to go. He's been very good on these tyres tonight. Hooks the car up in 3rd gear to the apex, drops it down to 2nd temporarily, goes through, and he's just a shade over in the middle sector. So it's unlikely that this will be a new fastest lap at this stage with those tyres. He had a good first sector, did Caplero. The gap down to 3.5 seconds now for Caplero, and he crosses the line 0.3 of a second slower than he's been before. And we are about to finish off the race for the tail runners, I fear. Andy Winters should get through. Oh, is that a problem? That is deck paint suffering another penalty. And Jay O'Leary goes through into 5th place, or 3rd in class he remains. And then is that Andy Winters slowing for the line? It is. 3, 2, 1. He's given it up. He hasn't got the fuel for the finish as deck paint and Jay O'Leary go through. We are confirming Andy Winters in 6th, Arfaxad in 7th, Tap Shooter in 8th, then Major and CJ Rostorm. Hard battle race comes home in 11th place. Diablo Devil will secure 12th. Andy Winters, I think, didn't have the fuel to finish the race, just had to slow the car to the line, and JMS goes through. Diablo suffering front left damage on the car. JMS securing that 13th and last position tonight, but points nonetheless for a well fought race and a feature race to be proud of. Here comes BX Royal. It's his final and 27th lap to finish off the championship in season 9, securing, I'm sure, 2nd place in our championship for tier 1. BX Royal flashes the lights, double win tonight in Austria, and Caplero 2nd position, and I think we'll move up to 3rd in the tier 1 championship. DDK, your tier 3 champion, finishes 1st in class, of course, and on the podium in P3. And then the much penalised tonight deck paint did manage to get ahead of Jay O'Leary, who has disappeared off the back of him. Must have had a major issue, Jay O'Leary, on that final lap. And deck paint will come through to secure 4th overall, 3rd in tier 1 tonight. Some 34 seconds away from the winner. Jay O'Leary will be the last one to cross the line, if indeed he gets there, because he's run out of fuel. Unfortunately, that's pretty embarrassing, but never mind. It's BX Royal. The night belongs to BX Royal and the Ferrari 458 Italia GT3. It is Great Britain from Italy, from the Netherlands, BX Royal, Caplero and DDK. And a great way to finish our Tier 1 and Tier 3 Season 9. Hope you guys have enjoyed it. We'll go through the final results, but I believe provisionally that it will be Marco champion, BX Royal 2nd, and Caplero in 3rd place, with Mazda winning the Tier 1 Constructors title. DDK has already secured that 3rd position. I'm afraid my memory is not good enough to look at who is fighting for the minor placings in Tier 3, but like I say, stay tuned to socials for the final confirmed results. Victory for BX Royal, up from the back of the grid. A double win tonight is a very special way to finish the championship and will help him in his bid to take part in the Race of Champions. Sorry, I just pressed the wrong button. I want the results screen. There we go. BX Royal from Caplero and DDK. Caplero, the fastest lap at 28.259. Then deck paint, Jay O'Leary, Andy Winters, a British 4.56, followed by the German Arfaxad and the American Tap Shooter in 8th. Then we have British 9, 10, 11, Major, CJ and Rostorm, from our Croatian Diablo Devil, and our Irishman JMS finishes in 13th position. Well, I hope you've enjoyed it tonight. Thank you for watching. Thank you for liking and sharing the video on your way out. My name's been Webbo. I've been your commentator for Tier 1 through this season, and I hope to see you all again soon. But from now on the channel, from Aero League Racing's Tier 1 and Tier 3 GT Racing Season 9, we will catch you on the next race day.